I'm liking the shirt. I
Right.
pinned that to the top of the page so people could still get it if they want. Oh shit!
My man Brandon.
Who
What's
is
up? What's up?
My little brother right there.
What's going on?
I
Oh,
think we're in for a show.
I see what you did there. Man, if I'm your little brother, my big brother is looking like shit.
I think things are
But
changing.
the Daniel Jones situation isn't looking so hot, my man.
So what's the natural order that we're looking at right now? Is it Buffalo, Jets, Giants, the New York teams?
Oh, I think Buffalo
Or is
takes
it Jets,
that, man.
Buffalo, Giants?
I don't think.
What's the pecking order?
I mean, well, did we start already?
Yeah, it's for you, but yeah.
Okay. So for the record, when I was saying my big brother looks like shit, I certainly wasn't talking about Atticus. He's a wonderful looking individual. Look at this guy. Oh my God. I was talking about Daniel Jones throwing 17 interceptions in a preseason game. But
Yeah.
then, so, the natural order, I think.
Wait, if you include practice, it's more like 67.
Listen, I'm a Jets fan. I can see a pick coming from a mile away. So, I think the natural, you got to give Buffalo the lead to start because they're, the last 4 years they've won the division. But I think if you look at it on paper, I don't know. I mean, and I know the Jets are paper champions quite a few times in my life, but this one feels a little bit different, I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers, hopefully not tearing his Achilles. They took their offensive line from crap to pretty damn good. Got Mike Williams in the building. Maybe Hassan Reddick shows up. Maybe he doesn't. But they still have a top 5 defense. They won 7 games with Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, and some dudes playing offensive line off a couch. So, I mean, I think it's reasonable to say they should win at least 3 more games this year, assuming everything doesn't blow up again. I mean, 10 wins seems. I mean, the Vegas line moved from 9.5 to 10.5, which makes more sense to me. So Buffalo.
The good thing is too, I think the Jets are in better position now also because you don't have Zach Wilson backing up Aaron Rodgers should something go wrong. Mm-hmm. Tyrod Taylor is a very capable stand-in.
Yeah.
If Rodgers should go down for a couple of games. So
and he probably will. I mean, he probably will miss a couple games. I mean, you hope if he misses games, he misses 2 to 3, not the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think people realize how bad the Jets quarterback play has been over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
There was an efficiency chart of quarterbacks from I don't know, it was like 2019 to present. There was all these quarterbacks, and then there was bad quarterbacks, and then Zach Wilson was all the way in the bottom left. I don't think people realize how historically bad the Jets quarterback play has been, which makes them winning 7 games last year pretty impressive. He's really bad, man.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, I wish he wasn't, but the guy is just, so to your point, Atticus, even if Aaron Rodgers, honestly, God forbid, Aaron Rodgers goes down tomorrow, right? The jump from Zach Wilson to Tyrod Taylor is huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you're telling me Tyrod Taylor on this team last year, they don't win 9-10 games. Yeah. I mean, they went 5 weeks and didn't score a touchdown.
I think they easily win 9 or 10 games with Tyrod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. They're in the team he came from. Atticus and I were talking about this last week. Tyrod was the best quarterback on the Giants last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he didn't get any play until, Joey Bagadonis decided to get hurt and he had to come in and he lit it up, man. I'll tell you, I was telling Atticus, I was at the game Christmas Day against the Eagles. And when he came in, the Eagles didn't know what to do, right? They were fine in the first half with Tommy DeVito. When Tyrod came in, he just brought another layer of quarterback play they didn't know how to handle. And I think, if he gets that same chance with the Jets behind a real offensive line and with that defense, not that I want A-Rod to get hurt, right?
Of course. But he's 40.
He's
going to miss a few games. He'll miss a few games. Yeah. I know he will. I mean, of course he will. And that's why they brought
99.72% of the season. That's all, right? Let's not do that again.
Well, yeah, let's assume A-Rod, let's assume like health aside, right? He plays the majority of the season. Let's just assume that. I think like there's 17 games. Let's say he plays 13, 14 games, right? If you take even A-Rod, because people are like, does he still have it? I mean, look, I know it's training camp. I'm just watching practice, but the dude can still throw football. Like, there's no doubt about that. So let's say, like, what does it mean for this team if worst case he's average? Let's say he's average, he's 40, he's average. You got a game manager who can see the field better than anyone in the NFL with this defense, with this offensive line. And let's not forget Brees Hall. I mean,
A healthy Brees Hall is a threat to any
yeah.
opposing team.
I mean, he last year he was coming off an ACL.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's fully healthy now.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably a threat for 15, 16, 1700 overall yards.
Sure.
Right? And Garrett Wilson, the dude's been cracking 1,000 yards with the worst quarterback play in the NFL. So like let's say Aaron Rodgers is average. They win 9, 10 games. What if he's like better than average? And I'm saying like, okay, let's say he goes for 4,000 yards and like 20 touchdowns. Better than 3,800 yards even. Forget 4,000. 30, 37, 3,800, 20 touchdowns. How many games does that win? But what if he's like back to MVP Aaron Rodgers from 2, 3 years ago? What are we talking about here? You know, that's all I'm going to say. I mean, but my point with that is the worst case, because at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers is not going to suck. He's never going to suck. The guy's not going to suck. Worst case, he's average. And if you give me an average Aaron Rodgers who sees the field better, who can change a play on a dime, even just brings that mental element, I think that we're at least in contention to win the division.
I think you're being too humble, and I think that you're really downplaying how talented Aaron Rodgers is.
Yeah, he is.
Listen, Aaron Rodgers' trophy case does not adequately display how good that man is.
Totally agree.
I have seen that man throw passes, and the only other person I've seen throw passes like Aaron Rodgers can is Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
He can underhanded, side-handed, throw it. He can throw cross body on the other side of the field and make a completely broken play look like he designed it that way. He's that good.
Especially with the running backs. Yep. And
especially if he's got a good running game and play action is something that they can incorporate into the passing game. He's got his offensive coordinator that he feels comfortable playing with. He's, like you said, Brees Hall is on year 2 coming back from a torn ACL. Year 1, you don't expect much from him, but year 2, they're usually pretty healthy and they're ready to go again. You guys also got Mike Williams this year. You've already got a good stable of wide receivers in there. I think you guys are poised to have a good year. The problem is you're in the same division with Tua and that Dolphins team that simply keeps getting better. For some reason, their coach looks like an accountant who's on crack, but he knows how to call up game plans, right?
Yeah.
The Bills, they drafted a couple of rookie wide receivers that they feel real good about, but I don't know until I see something on paper. They're unproven commodities as far as I'm concerned. But when you look at last year, just points production, the Dolphins scored almost 500 points last year, which is absolutely insane.
Yep.
The Bills scored 450 points.
Mm-hmm.
The Jets in your division was next with 268. That's almost a 200-point differential.
Sure.
Now, defensively, the Bills showed the best defense, but I don't think their defense is anything better than the Jets. Like you said, if Hassan Reddick shows up and he plays up to his potential, I mean, with all other pieces you've got on defense, I think you guys should be pretty good. But what do you think you're going to see in your division, given how talented that division? Look, they just drafted May up in New England. I think Jacoby Brissett's still going to get the start. Let that kid sit on the bench for a minute, learn some things he needs to learn, and go through a proper developmental process. But where do you think the Jets are going to land when you've got the Bills and the Dolphins doing what they've done for the past 2 years?
Yeah. Well, before I answer that, there's one thing you said before about Aaron Rodgers' trophy case I think is really important because, and this is going to parlay into the answer that I have about this, but what the Packers never did for Aaron Rodgers, they did it like twice. is give him a viable defense. When they gave him a viable defense, they won rings. They, at the end of the day, if you look at Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, yeah, he wasn't perfect all the time, but
Right.
in the end, I mean, they were giving up 30 points a game in the playoffs. Their special teams was horrible. Like, it's a team sport at the end of the day. So if they had done that and put a better team around him, which is, I think, part of the reason he's not there anymore, it's his frustration, he'd have 4 rings, you know?
Yeah.
When it comes to the AFC East, honestly, like, so I mean, if you look at Buffalo, and I'm going to be a little more bold with these statements. Buffalo, you know, yeah, they've had
Be a homer. Be a homer.
Well,
Yeah,
let me
I'm gonna
say
be.
this too about Buffalo, right? Like, I mean, the past is the past. They have a lot of new players this year, and they just lost a really big
Yeah. Unproven.
their defense this year. They lost Matt Milano.
Agreed. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing with the Bills, right? Is that if you look at the Bills year over year, now look, I don't think the Bills are going to be a bad team because I don't think it's possible with Josh Allen to be a bad team, and I think their offensive coordinator's approach is much better. They play more ball control, but they lost Trey White, they lost Stephon Diggs, they lost now Matt Milano, which is I think probably the biggest loss for them. Right? We saw what happened to them last year when they lost Matt Milano with that defense. It was ugly. Matt Milano is probably the most important player on that team, not named Josh Allen.
Yeah.
The Bills, and now they're replacing, you know, Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis with Curtis Samuel, who I think will be okay.
Okay.
Curtis Samuel, you're asking Khalil Shakir to step into a bigger role, which he's a good player, but he is what he is. And you're now bringing in Keon Coleman, who's noted to be coming out of the draft of raw talent. This is going to be a team that
They like Keon Coleman.
I mean, I like Keon Coleman too, right? And but I think like what the Bills are clearly doing is they're doing like a minor reset. They're not rebuilding, but they're resetting. And I think people should expect the results to look like that. So I mean, I could see them winning 8-9 games. I'll be honest. I don't think that defense is terribly concerning. Their offense will have its moments, but there's just something not there for me with them this year. They'll be a pain in the ass, but they're not going to be the Bills that we're used to. When it comes to the Dolphins, so here's the thing with the Dolphins, right? 2 things. Overall, I'm not necessarily big on the Dolphins like a lot of people. They have their moments when they're playing in positive weather, when it's early in the season and they can run on tracks, they're great. However, when the weather starts to cool off and things get a little challenging, they fall apart every single year. There's a reason that franchise has not won a playoff game in 24 years.
Are they the Dallas Cowboys of the AFC
Yes,
East?
100%.
Okay.
And here's the thing with the Dolphins. If you look at the results against the Jets in the last few years, and forget the score because there's a lot underneath those scores. There's Tim Boyle throwing a 101-yard pick 6 to close a half. There's turning the ball over inside the 10 and spotting them 17 points, right? You look at Tua Tagovailoa's performance against the Jets, and it's really not that impressive. The Jets defense has clamped him down and controlled that offensive output many times. They have yet to face the Jets with a quarterback with Tua, not named Zach Wilson, Mike White, Trevor Siemian, or Tim Boyle. I would love to see, all I'm going to say is I would love to see what happens when that team faces the Jets with and the rest. And our starting offensive line literally are guys coming off of the couch.
But Tyrod Taylor would be interesting too because they gave up on the guy when he brought him to their first playoff game for decades.
Sure. I mean, I think the Dolphins and Jets will be battling it out for the division, frankly. I think in the end, I could very easily see a scenario where week 17 or 18 or whatever it is now, when the Dolphins come to New York or Jersey or whatever, and it's January. I could see that being for the division, and I think what we see happen every time the Dolphins have to play in the cold. And there's just, I think the Jets are going to win the division, assuming they stay healthy. And when I say
is that a bold prediction or no?
No, I don't think I put a bet on it a month and a half ago.
I don't know that I would call that a bold prediction.
I don't think it's bold. I agree with
it's
you.
not. Yeah, I don't think so.
I agree 100% that I give the Jets the nod right now, largely in part to what you said, right? The Dolphins are really good. I saw them in September a couple years ago in Baltimore, right? It was 85 degrees. They were down by 4 touchdowns in the first half and then just started running, right? And they scored 5 touchdowns in the second half. I was like, this team is fucking ridiculous.
And then what happened?
And then it gets November and they're playing in 20-degree weather and they can't do it.
Can't do it. It's just what happens and that's why every year Dolphin fans beg and plead for a home playoff game.
They gave the Ravens edibles in the locker room during halftime that game. What do you think was going to happen?
Well, I mean,
and the Dolphins also end with at Houston, San Fran, at Cleveland, and at New York. I mean, that's a gauntlet to end your season.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing that the Jets did actually, because when I say stay healthy, that's not like a broad statement for like, if someone gets hurt, I have an excuse. I'm talking about compared to last year.
Yeah,
I'm saying,
right.
I mean, like your whole offensive line doesn't go down, and your Hall of Fame quarterback doesn't go down, and all this other stuff doesn't happen. Like, yeah, there's injuries. People are going to get hurt, right? I'm saying, and this is where what the Jets did in the draft is amazing, where there's two guys. Well, actually, there's a few guys from this draft class I really like, but I was very pro Brock Bowers before the draft. Very pro Brock Bowers. I was like, get Brock Bowers in here. And I still think Brock Bowers is going to be a great player. But looking at the draft in retrospect, what they did by drafting Olu Fashanu was brilliant, because Tyron Smith is an amazing left tackle. However, he does have an injury history, right? To be able to say, and Olu's looked amazing so far, right? Knowing for the same reason that they brought in Tyrod, that Tyron's probably going to miss a couple games, right? To be able to slide Olu Fashanu in there and protect your number one asset in Aaron Rodgers, because you give that guy time, he's going to kill you, right? It was the best thing they could have done, because they're now also cross-training Olu from left to right tackle. He played right tackle in his preseason game. And, it was the unsexy pick, but a great pick. The other pick I really like, and I think it might take a little time to see it this year, but it will happen, is Malachi Corley. I'm a huge fan of that pick. He's I don't think he's going to be like a week one big impact player, but as the season goes on, I think he's going to carve it out, and we're going to start seeing those flashes of why they call him Yak King. And if they can start adding a Deebo Samuel type element to this offense, when you have Mike Williams going downfield and Garrett Wilson flying around, probably playing more in the slot, it's going to get pretty scary.
Yeah. I think the Jets are probably the most exciting team in the AFC East right now. I mean, there's still some hype that's overflow from last year, because we didn't get to see Aaron Rodgers, what was it, 46 seconds into the game, and he was injured.
For sure.
So I'm excited to see what he's going to do in New York. And I think that the New York Jets probably I think Miami's got some good balance too, but like you said, they find a way to self-destruct. I think the New York Jets has some really good balance on offense, defense, and special teams.
Very filled roster. And here's the actually thing about the Dolphins that no one's talking about anymore. It was a big thing in free agency, but people have sort of moved on, right? Because the Dolphins have that effect. They're very flashy. They're a very sexy offense. So you pay attention to those things. But their offensive line is in big trouble. They lost a lot of really important players on that offensive line. They lost Hunt. Their center's gone. I mean, their left tackle can't stay healthy. Like, they've got some significant problems. Like, recently I was looking on Twitter and seeing Dolphin fans like trying to figure out how they can get a center for Skylar Thompson in a trade. Like, it's bad, right? And if you don't have we all know this, if you don't have an offensive line, I don't care. I mean, yeah, they'll make plays, but you're not going to win down the stretch without that. And that's a big concern I have about them.
I honestly have the same sentiments about Miami as you do. I mean, we talked last year a couple of times about this. I never bought into the hype of Miami. I think they're a bit overrated, to be honest with you. I mean, they've had some moments where they've looked really good, almost unbeatable. And then you can see other times where they look very beatable, and then you just brought up the concerns about their offensive line, and given to his injury history and his concussions, I don't know how comfortable he's going to be behind an offensive line that shows him they can't protect him very well.
Yeah, sure.
What's that going to look like?
He's got a real quick release, and that'll help him. But here's the other thing that happened last year, and it wasn't just the weather. There's something I think teams are catching on to the Dolphins a little bit, because what teams started to realize is that the Dolphins are a lot of fake motion, right? They move guys around pre-snap just to create noise, right? And they get guys out of position. That was their whole thing. What teams started doing in the second half of last year is not moving. So their guys will go in motion back and forth, and they do all this stuff, and the defense will just stand there, and they would ultimately
They'll give them a man look, but they're playing zone.
But what would happen is the Dolphins wouldn't catch them out of position or leaning, right? Because the Dolphins would ultimately come back to their original formation and run the same play they were going to run to begin with. And teams started to realize that they were actually just creating noise with motion. They weren't actually doing anything. And they started to slow them down.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that element of the Dolphins that I think sort of got figured out. Like, it happens with everything, like the Wildcat, eventually teams catch on. Teams are starting to catch on. And now you got to lean on pure skill. And that's where the offensive line is going to be an issue.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
So you think the Jets are going to take the East?
Yeah.
You think the Bills are going to fare better than Miami?
No, I know. I think the Dolphins will be better than the Bills.
The Dolphins are going to be better than Miami?
I think the Dolphins will be better than
the Bills are going to be out then?
I think so. I think that we'll miss the playoffs this year. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I do. I mean, I could see them making a wild card. There's just something missing.
There's too much unproven up there.
Yeah, because if you're not gonna let Josh Allen play hero ball, you're gonna let him run himself into the ground, or you're telling me James Cook is gonna carry your offense. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
It's just that
they lost one of their best defensive players.
Multiples. They lost both their safeties. They lost Trey White. They lost Matt Milano.
And what's his name? Two-time Super Bowl defensive edge rusher, came from the Rams. I can't think of his name right now. He's on sort of 30. He's like 32, 33.
Leonard Floyd. He's the one that hurt Aaron Rodgers.
No, not Leonard Floyd. He wears the glasses.
Von Miller?
Von Miller.
Yeah, he's back, but he's washed, man.
Right, that's what I'm saying. What do they have? Is that who you're relying on?
Yeah, Matt Milano.
I don't know that there's an argument that will combat what you said. I think the Jets are probably poised to take this division this year.
Yeah, they're very balanced, and behind Breece Hall. And here's the thing too: the offense of the Jets, like, everyone's very focused on Aaron Rodgers, and obviously I get it. I am too. I mean, who wouldn't be? But I don't think they're going to be as pass happy as people think. Like, I don't think we're going back to like A-Rod of 4 years ago where he's slinging the ball. Like, yeah, he'll do it, right? I don't think the Jets want to throw the ball 40 times a game.
Right.
What they want to do is think about the defense of the Jets. When's the last time you saw them play with a lead? In the last 2 years.
Well, when you only put up 250 points on a 17-game schedule.
And think about how good they still were, and they were never able to pin their ears back. Mm-hmm. I mean, this defense, I don't think we've seen the best of this defense yet.
I don't think so either. I think you have a good defense.
Yeah. So what happens now when they're able to actually score? The defense can actually rush the passer.
You know what your defense problem was last year? It was on the field too damn long.
Of course,
because your offense couldn't do shit,
and they were still elite. That's the crazy thing. They were still an elite defense. They had no business being that good. They should have been gassed and just getting killed. And they started to a little bit. Like, towards the end, they started giving up mentally. You could see it, and I don't blame them. But they held their own, man. They were, and that's 2 years in a row. So it's not a fluke either. Now, here's the downside of the Jets defense, because I think there is a little bit of a downside that I'm a little concerned about. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, we don't need Hassan Reddick. We do need Hassan Reddick. Let's be real. They lost Bryce Huff to the Eagles. They then traded John Franklin Myers, and they backfilled him with Hassan Reddick. So as it stands today, one of the edge positions is Michael Clemens, who has no business being a starter. And Will McDonald, who I think will be a good pass rusher, but he's not a full-time player. So not to say, like, if Hassan Reddick doesn't show up, the defense won't be good, because they will be very good. But at the end of the day, we're talking about, like, this team wants to win a Super Bowl. You're not going to win a Super Bowl without Hassan Reddick. Let's just be real.
Do they have the cap space to sign him?
I mean, they can make it. The cap can always get made to work. I mean, Here's the thing I don't understand about this. Like, I understand actually both sides of this. I understand where Hassan Reddick's coming from. He's owed $14.5 million this year, and zero of it is guaranteed. Okay. He's 30 years old. I get where he's coming from. At the same time, the Jets are saying, why don't you show up for one day and then we'll talk about it. Here's the thing I don't get about what the Jets did. Why would you trade for a guy that you know has a contract dispute without solving that contract dispute before making the trade? This shouldn't, like, what's happening here shouldn't be surprising. At the end of the day, these two parties need each other. At the end of the day, Hassan Reddick sitting out the season makes no sense. He's 30 years old. What are you going to do? Sit out at 30, come back at 31 and be like, pay me? No one's going to do that, right? The Jets are not going to trade Hassan Reddick because it makes no sense. Why would you trade Hassan Reddick? You traded a conditional third. What do you need, a sixth? Why? You know? So they'll figure it out. And I think what needs to happen is they need to come in and give him a decent signing bonus, put some cash in his lap, guarantee a little bit of the 14.5 million, and just move on.
Not a great way to start the relationship, though.
No, I mean, the fact that it came to the point where Hassan Reddick said, I'm requesting a trade is entirely on the Jets. It's like, this never should have come to this point. I understand you want to trade for him. You made an offer, whatever. Even if he changed his tune, right? This is the NFL. This is business. This happens, right? This isn't like the first time this has happened. You should have had a backup plan and been ready to execute that backup plan.
Yeah.
You never should have reached a point where it's August 19th. Because here's the other thing. Let's say they figure this out within next week. What is he going to do? Rush back at 30 years old? Risk himself getting a hamstring injury? What are we doing? Like, they've already fumbled this one. I'm worried about the defensive line in that regard. I think the middle got better. I think, Jermaine Johnson's Jermaine Johnson, but that other side, Michael Clemens is getting pushed around by backups. Like, the dude, he's a rotational backup player.
And you did nothing in the draft for your line. I mean, you got a tackle, but everything else was like running backs, wide receivers, corner, safety.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, you guys have known me long enough. I've been through enough as a Jets fan. If this is the biggest gripe that I have entering the season, I'm okay with it. Like, but
I'm with you, man. I'm baffled, right?
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't. I've never, like, you traded for a guy that had a contract dispute and wanted a new contract. Like,
it's not a secret.
They didn't have a plan for it.
No, and that's the part that's annoying to me, right? Like, they're cutting off their nose to spite their face at this point. Like, for what reason? Like, you knew what you were getting into. This is why the Eagles signed Bryce Huff.
Right.
So
So what do you think about the your new rookie prospects? Did you see anything that you wanted to see, or are you still looking for more, or what?
I mean, no, I think they look pretty good. I really like the running backs we drafted. I think Braylon Allen, he reminds me in like size and running style of like rookie Derrick Henry. I'm not saying he's going to be Derrick Henry, but I'm just saying like his running style, his size, like, and the kid's 20. Like, I think he just turned 20. He's really young. I'm really excited to see him. I think he's going to have a good rotational role with Brees. And Isaiah Davis, I mean, he looks like a smooth runner. I mean, he's very decisive. He's a one-cut runner. He makes decisions and he like glides. I think he'll have a good role in the return game.
How are they in pass pro?
They're both. Isaiah Davis is very good in pass pro. That's one of the reasons they drafted him. And Braylon Allen is. I mean, I haven't seen any issues, and he's actually delivered above the expectation in pass catching.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I really like the running back room. I think Izzy Abanikanda probably gets cut. But
well, that's a good problem to have, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So
are you're a season ticket holder now? Are you going to the game this Saturday?
No, I actually sold that one. So
you did sell that one.
Yeah, I sold that one. I went to the Commanders game just for like an hour. I just can't keep my attention in preseason, and I had a feeling I sold it because I had a feeling they weren't going to play the starters at all.
Yeah,
I'm going to save my energy for the opener.
I didn't get to catch any, or have the Jets played any of their starters during the preseason or no?
Not once.
Not
actually. No, that's not true. That's not true. So against the Commanders, they played two of their starting linemen. They played Joe Tittman and AVT played for a second. But Joe Tippmann, they played the first game because he was having some snapping issues in camp, and he was like sailing shotgun snaps. So
Yeah.
and he's fine that he didn't play. The last game against the Panthers, 32 players were inactive. Like there's zero chance to just play any starters next week. This week, I just don't see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Why risk it at this point, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, get used to what's coming because they're saying, what is it, Mike? We were talking last week about it. They're moving to an 18 game regular season, 2 preseason games.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see no starters at that point.
I mean, every team wants to fill their roster, so they want to see what people could do in live action. They know what their starters can do. Yeah. I just think the downside is, right, like game speed week 1, right? Like there's a little bit of rush you got to knock off, but maybe they practice really, really hard. I don't know.
I think it depends on the team, right? Like if it's like when you got a team where Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback and Tyron Smith's your left tackle, and like they know what game speed is. I think if you have a younger team, like I understand the Commanders week 1 starting Jaden Daniels and those guys. Like if you have a younger team, like play your starters for a little bit. But when you got like more of a veteran team, I don't see any value in it. Like
objectively, what did Jaden Daniels show on film? I didn't watch any of the game. Did he look good or?
Yeah, I mean, he scored a rushing touchdown. He had a nice deep pass. He's I really like him. I think he's got to alter his playing style from college a little bit because in college he was really reckless and threw his body around a lot, and he's not the biggest guy. So if he starts doing that in the NFL, like he's gonna have problems. But he's got a great arm. He's athletic. He can run. I mean, I think he's going to be a very good player.
Yeah. Was he playing against starters?
The Jets backups, but he still looked good. I mean,
yeah. It's really hard to get excited about anybody in preseason, right? Like you see some flashes. They look like they have the skill set. I mean, obviously they were top draft picks, so they got it right. But like, let's get into the season before we start getting overreactive.
You must not have seen Tommy Cutlets this past weekend. He looked great, man.
I thought Danny looked like he was in midseason form.
You know what rookie I had? Like I normally I agree with you, man. I usually don't put much into the preseason, but Caleb Williams looks really fucking good. Like
really?
Yeah, like
I think he's got some footwork issues.
I mean, sure. I mean, he's gonna have his rookie issues, but that deep throw to Odunze was like you cannot teach that shit. Like that was cross body down the field on a dime. The week before that, like no look to DeAndre Swift. Like he's doing some things that I'm actually like the confidence level he has to have to even attempt that in his second preseason game and his first preseason game is immense. The dude's got it, man.
I don't want to say this one out loud, but I'm going to anyway. The rookie that impressed me this past week was Malik Neighbors. Like I think the Giants have themselves a phenomenal receiver, right? Like I'm not going to say he's going to be OBJ, right? We're not going to do that, but
he's going to be better than OBJ. Just to be clear,
absolutely have that kind of season this rookie season.
Yeah.
The only problem is he's got Daniel Jones throwing him the ball, so he's gonna struggle getting to 1,000 yards, but he's gonna make some plays.
Definitely. I think Neighbors.
You want to know, can I give you a professional perspective of the New York Giants real quick?
Yeah.
Honey, come here. They want you to tell them about the New York Giants and all their splendor. Come over here. Come on. Tell them what you think about the Giants.
That they're the best team ever.
Ever.
That's right.
There it is.
You got any questions for this super fan, guys?
No. I mean that makes sense to me.
You did good, kid. Thank you. I think Malik Neighbors is pretty good, man. I mean, one of the things that impresses me about him more, I shouldn't say more, but just as much as his play on the field is, you watch this kid interview yet? He is far beyond his years, man. I mean, he's humble. He owns everything. He said, I remember when the Eagles pulled off that draft day trade and picked up A.J. Brown. And AJ Brown said, put a sign up in my locker that says always open, right? Because somebody said that about him. And he said, I'm always open. And Malik Neighbors said, just throw the ball in my direction and give me a chance to catch it, and I'll make you proud. He said it in the most humblest way, and just the way he interviews, the way he carries himself, because he had some off-field activity potential issues coming out of the draft, right? But the kid has really shown up in a way that I'm really impressed with. And he's got all the athletic capabilities. He's got the physical build. I mean, when you look at this guy, he's stacked, bro. He's in his leaping ability. He's fast. He's got big hands. So I'm excited about him.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's the best receiver in this draft.
A lot of people are saying that.
I
mean, Martin Harrison Jr., he's a phenom, right?
Sure.
He catches everything too. But I don't know. I like the kid. But like you said, Daniel Jones is not shown. And I think a lot of people are at the point, even those people who are just like diehard Jones supporters are at the place where they're like, we've waited long enough.
Yeah.
It's time, right? You're in year 6 and what have you done? And this is a what have you done for me lately league, and you've done nothing for me lately. And unless he does something dramatic, they already got the pitchforks out for a playoff game. I mean, for a preseason game. They're ready to burn this guy at the stake.
He's in the final year of his contract, right?
He's got 3 more years, but they have an out after 2.
Yeah.
Here's
the thing, though, and this is like, I agree, Neighbors is a really good player, and he's going to be a very good player. I don't, though, like, so Schoen is definitely better than what the hell was the guy's name before him? What was that guy's name?
Gettleman.
Oh my God. Although Gettleman had a couple really good drafts, actually.
Yes, he did.
But I'm not really clear on what their plan is. That's like when I look at what the Giants are doing, like, what I don't understand is like, why draft a receiver, but when you could have drafted the quarterback, which you knew you didn't have. Like, and trust me, I know the frustration of having a quarterback is painful. Like, I just don't.
Who would you have recommended they drafted for quarterback?
They picked in the top 5?
Top 6.
Top 6. I would have taken Penix.
Oh, really? You like Michael Penix?
Yeah. I mean,
he went to the Falcons, wasn't it?
Yeah, and like 8th or something like that. Like I know the Giants aggressively tried to trade up to 3 to get Drake May.
They wanted Drake May.
Like, Schoen basically was like, tell me what you want and I'll give it to you. Like, he wanted them, and that was like, I get it, but even still being on the clock, like, not a knock on Neighbors. Like, Neighbors is a great player, but I don't know.
So I don't disagree with their strategy, because I think that the pieces that they have put in place on the rest of the team is how you want to do it when you're building. Then if Daniel Jones, and he's showing he's not the guy. First of all, if you are not convinced that Penix is your guy, you don't spend a draft pick.
Sure.
That high a draft pick on him. They wanted May. They saw something. They scouted him. And I think the Giants really did their homework when it came to the quarterback prospects of this year's draft. They really knew who they wanted. And when they spoke with the New England Patriots and they told them, when the Patriots said what they wanted for him, they were like, we cannot mortgage the next 3 seasons on this one guy. Sure. Think about what they would have been left with. It's not like they already had a starting nucleus of players that would have put them in a position where you can throw a new guy in and keep and leapfrog up from last place to second place in the division, hopefully first place, right? They weren't working with that. They were working with bare cupboards.
Yeah.
So what you're going to do is you're going to take this guy, this real nice, shiny, polished quarterback, and you're going to put him behind this terrible offensive line. You're going to destroy him and his career.
You gotta tell me. Right, I've seen that movie many times, man.
So I think I like what they did. I think I like what they did because the offensive line is finally coming into shape. it certainly isn't kitchen tested, mother approved yet, but it's much better than it's been.
Let,
And then
let me rephrase what I say though, because I don't disagree with the pick. Like, what I disagree with is still starting Daniel Jones. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's not in the draft,
right.
they're like, you go get Gardner Minshew, go get Jacoby Brissett, go get guys like that, where it's clear like Daniel Jones isn't the guy. Like, nothing that happened in this last preseason game is surprising, right?
But that's what you'll see next year. What you're saying,
Yeah,
they didn't have the money. They gave him 40 million this year. They committed to him. He
I mean,
took
that's
up
true.
15-16% of their spending money, if
That's
you will. And they had so many other holes to fill.
Who's their backup now? Is it Cutlass?
Drew Lock, and he
Oh,
looks
Drew
like
Lock. That's right.
he looks like ass wipe.
Wow.
Horrible. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And they wanted so desperately to keep Tyrod Taylor, but they couldn't because the Jets knew if Aaron goes down, and I think the expectation is Aaron will miss a couple of games, right?
I mean,
And if he misses a couple, you need a Tyrod Taylor, somebody like that who you can feel comfortable and confident putting in to keep the ship afloat.
well, that was the
in
biggest
his
issue. That was the biggest issue last year. Not to change the subject back to the Jets, just on that topic.
No, it's fine.
Like that was the biggest issue last year entering the season. We were complaining that we didn't have a backup quarterback before week one ever happened. Because we were sitting there going, okay, you want to keep Zach Wilson, fine. You want to redshirt him, fine. But then why is he your backup? You're a hit away from Zach Wilson being your quarterback again. It was a huge frustration last year, like not entering the year with like a Gardner Minshew, even like anyone that was available. And then when it happened, like they just sat there and we're like, yeah, Zach, like they just punted and it was so annoying. Anyway, not to relive the past because that's over, but
yeah. Gardner Minshew got paid though. Isn't he starting for like
Yeah.
Vegas or something?
Yeah. He's an underrated quarterback. Like he's not
Yeah.
great, but he can get the job done. Seen it a few times.
I think he's perfect for Vegas too.
Me too.
Perfect.
Yeah, totally.
He screams Vegas.
Yeah. Devontae
Oh
Adams will be
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, how about the Eagles, man? How you feeling about the Eagles?
I feel pretty good, right? Like I don't know why people want to continue harping on something that is seemingly old news, right? Like every day I'm reading something about Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni and their relationship, and both of them have put it to bed, right? But the news media just wants to just continue.
They just need something to talk about, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm just like, just let it go, right? But like everything I've seen, I'm seeing that team back, right? Like last year, the team was gone, right? There was a lack of leadership, a lack of camaraderie, just some third, fourth string wide receiver making a catch and dragging a dude 10 yards, and the starting wide receivers on the sideline just going crazy for a preseason game, right? Like you don't see that shit. That's what I'm talking about. That's the attitude that I
Hold
like.
on a second.
Yeah.
Last week at your preseason game, you had at a practice, didn't you have 50,000 people in the stadium?
50,000. It blew your boy away. Actually, he's our boy now. So,
Saquon, yeah.
He didn't even know how to handle that. It's like I knew Philly was crazy, and they're still crazy, but I just see him a different side of crazy now, right? Like he's like, this is nuts. This is insane.
Well, there's an appealing crazy, and then there's just fucking crazy.
Yeah.
There's that they have that appealing crazy. So
unless you're
not that Kensington shit.
You're a visiting fan or team, it's the
right
crazy that comes.
And for Santa Claus is risky.
And don't sit near a horse stall, man. You don't want to hear that. Well, I'll tell you what, if the Jets win a Super Bowl, I'll go eat some horse shit in I'll be the first one shoveling it down.
Randy's house, right here in Randy's house. Brandon Gorky has said he will eat horse shit if the Jets.
Please.
I heard it. It said I heard it say recording when we first started too. We got receipts.
No, the Eagles.
I
you
mean,
know.
I feel really good, right? Like they filled some slots on the defense. I mean, their defense had a lot of questions, but they had a lot of holes filled. I mean, their draft was phenomenal, right? It was, top notch. How we doing this thing again? Just picking the right players, identifying who they were. Quinyon Mitchell is going to be a stud in this league. I'm excited to see what Cooper DeJean can do, or DeJean. Because he's been out until last week. So he's
a
been
corner, right?
Yeah, he's a corner,
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see what he does. I think CJ Gardner coming back is huge for that defense because he brings another layer. I like what I've seen out of Ringo. I like what I've seen out of Kobe Dean. Not to start, but I just like, he's flying all over the field making tackles, and not like after big chunks of gains, right? Like he's just getting at it and recovering well and getting to it. I like Bryce Huff. I think that's a phenomenal. If you're going to lose Reddick, in the Eagles scheme, they like to rotate in and out anyway, so they keep fresh. So Bryce Huff is nice for that. I mean, his stats from last year. He didn't get a whole lot of playing time, but when he was in there, he was a monster. So with a little bit more playing time, I think that we'll continue to see that. And I really don't know what to say about the offense other than I think it's going to be exciting. I don't,
I do too.
I think
I do
that
too.
Kellen Moore coming in has given a new perspective to this talented roster that was already talented before Saquon, right? Like they didn't need Saquon Barkley, right? But maybe they did, like they need an every down back, and he brings.
You think so? I don't think you needed an every down back.
I think he brings a different layer than Swift, right? Like I like Swift, and Swift is going to have a nice,
he was
nice
pretty
year
good.
in Chicago, but he can't pass block.
Right.
Yeah, I always got the
And
feeling-
Saquon's gotten better at pass blocking. Now his pass pro, he was terrible in his first year, but he really got a lot better.
I always got the feeling the Eagles ran this like running back by committee the last couple of years, but not by choice. Like I don't think they wanted to do it, but I think they just kind of had to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
They did it well.
they did. But
They
I just
had a lot of good backs, but small in stature that can't take
Yeah,
the pounding
exactly.
25 times a game.
yeah.
know?
I'm curious, and I'm curious to see what happens to the tush push this year with the center Kelsey retiring. Like, are they still going to run that as much, or is Saquon going to start taking some of those touches? Or I'm just. It's more.
I don't think Saquon's getting any of those. He better run it in if you don't get tackled at the ones. That's all.
It's a good question. No, I hadn't thought of that.
Because Kelsey's whole thing with Kelsey was a big part of the tush push because the way he would like line the ball up and like almost cheat, but he wasn't cheating, but he was so good at pushing the line.
Listen, Kelsey was a cheat code at center, okay? He was a center cheat code for the league, period.
Like, he would always line the ball up like 2 inches past where it should be, just enough not to get called. And it like plays like that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Like
you would pick up on that, Brandon.
I
never noticed it.
Yeah, he would like take like if the line was here, like I don't know how to do it, but like the ball would be like here. He would start here with the ball, and then like they'd set, and then he'd just move it up like this with his hand.
That should be an infraction.
Well, he got called a few times for being offsides or lining up offside, but it was never his. It wasn't his hand. It was always the guard, right? So like,
really?
Yeah, they were just trying to figure out. They're like, there's something wrong here, so we're throwing a flag, right? They figured it out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think that's a big loss when it comes to the tush push. I don't think they need the tush push, but I think that Cam Jurgens is qualified. He spent some time playing alongside Kelsey, and he still got Stoutland as a coach there. So hopefully something rubbed off.
I don't think they'll abandon it completely. I'm just curious if they run it less.
Well, I mean, you could have Saquon run it. He also squats 9,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So who benches more, Hurts or Barkley?
I think they're tied for the squat.
Yeah, for the squat.
Yeah, I think they have squatted the same amount, both of them.
No,
Sheesh.
I got to be honest. I never thought I'd see the day where I'd hear an Eagle fan talking about Saquon's hands in quads. I never
Me
never
neither.
thought it would happen, but here we are, man.
Me
Wait. The day
neither.
has come where we're on a video with a Giant fan and Eagle fan talking, with the Eagle fan talking about Saquon, and we're spending the first half talking about the Jets might win the Super Bowl. I don't
Yeah, we love it. I love it.
what the hell's going on.
Go. Love
Yeah.
it. What we touched on it a little bit earlier. What do you think about the 18 game season?
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, I'm a fan, so I'm good with it. I can understand why the players might not love it so much, but at the end of the day, they'll like it because the 18 game season will increase the salary cap proportionally and they'll get paid more money. So I think they'll be okay.
Yeah.
You
Do
know?
you think they should have 2 bye weeks with an 18 game season?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do like everyone has an early and like
Yeah.
late, you know? Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because the Eagles, that's the one thing that concerns me this year is the Eagles bye week is week 5.
Yeah.
Right. So that's super early, right? So
I love it.
come back from the bye week. I'm sure you would.
I'm good with that.
I know you are. You know, but you got to play 13 straight weeks,
Yeah, that's not cool.
you know, and be banged up going into the playoffs, hopefully. So
Yeah.
a little
I think 18 games. I mean, listen, I think there reaches a point where enough's enough. But I was fine with 17. I'd be okay with 18. But I mean, as long as it keeps pushing the Super Bowl out closer to an actual holiday weekend and we don't
Right.
Monday morning, we can keep going until that happens.
I think that's a good sell for the players, though. Like you have a early buy and a late buy.
Yeah.
I think the players would be more agreeable to the 18 game season and not if they can incorporate that. And I don't see why that would be a problem for them to work that into the schedule. I think they can do that.
Probably could. The math probably works out. What do you guys think of the new kickoff rule?
kind of like it.
Me too. I kinda like it.
I kind of it brings a little bit more excitement back to the kickoff, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I agree with you.
you know, and it evens the playing field a little bit. Like it's weird. It was a weird look the first time I saw it because I was like, this is very strange that, you know, we're waiting for them to catch the ball like that's hike, right?
Yeah.
And we're seeing people come out of the end zone when they weren't before. You know, they're seeing a lane and they're going for it. So I like that. And you don't have a guy coming down, you know, running 20 miles an hour, just trucking dudes. So, you know, from an injury standpoint, we should see less, and see more attempts to run back. Because I think the kickoff return for a touchdown is one of the most exciting plays in football.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? I think it's going to be a bigger factor this year because if you look, like when you watch it, it's basically like the way it's set up now. There's like one line to beat.
Yeah.
Beat that line. I think we're going to see a lot more touchdowns.
Yeah.
I don't like the onside kick rule. I looked into
I
it.
don't either.
Like you got to let them know.
Oh yeah.
And you can only do it if you're behind. You can't be in the lead and do an onside kick anymore.
I like the funky, like unexpected,
Yeah.
like that Super Bowl. Who came out and did that?
The Saints.
Thomas Morstead. Yeah. They wouldn't have won the Super Bowl if not for that.
Yeah, we're just gonna come out and do an onside kick. No one expects it.
You know what they do now, though, that I don't like, because I do like the kickoff, but there's something they started doing. So the chain gang's gone. They don't do chain gang anymore.
I noticed that.
It's like this, like
I don't like it.
AI like measurement. I don't like that at all.
I don't like it at all either.
Yeah,
I want to see links.
me too.
Bring it out. I want to see the postcard. What was
Yeah.
it? The
The
index
credit
card.
card. Index
I want to
card.
see that.
Yeah, I don't like that. It's like who? First of all, like where is that? Like who's doing that? Like I don't trust it.
Is there a device in the footballs now? Is that what it is? Or
I don't know. That's what I don't like about it. I don't know what's behind it. I don't know who's doing it. Is it really computer generated? Is someone like just like because if you can't see it, like there's going to be moments this year where people are like, NFL's rigged. You
is
know,
rigged? Yeah.
you know, like
Why not? If you can't see it.
They called the first down. The other team challenged, and then they said they confirmed the call, but then reversed it. I was like, what the fuck just happened? You know, they can't. If you just confirm the call, but then you reverse it, so that tells me somebody, saw something else on another screen that said no, they didn't make it.
Yeah, I don't like that shit. There's something about this first down thing that doesn't sit right with me. It's gonna
Yeah,
be like the new challenge, the pass interference rule.
I agree with you 100%.
The degenerate gambler inside me hates it, right? Because it's just too much room for error.
And plus, watching the chain gang come out in that moment where like, is it a first? Is it a first? Like, that's a part of the game, man.
That's a part of the game, man. There's a nostalgic value, quality attached to that.
Totally. Like, I don't like that one.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, I think that's an episode, guys, huh?
It is. It is.
It's
We
good
gotta
to
do
have
this again,
Brandon
Brandon.
up
Not just
here.
talking AFC.
The judge. The judge.
Judge is back.
That's right, baby.
All
Back in
right.
the fantasy league.
Nice.
Jets might make a playoff appearance this year.
We're for a while, 2024, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. The Jets were 2-4 in the division last year. What are they going this year, Brandon?
I mean, I want to say 4-2.
Okay. I can see that actually.
If you're gonna win the division, you gotta go 4-2.
I think that's fair. I think that's a split with Miami and Buffalo, and I think they beat New England twice.
Yeah.
I think they beat Buffalo twice.
See, I actually think they sweep Miami and split Buffalo.
Wow.
I just have,
So you all have a
Buffalo's that
different
team.
perspective.
They're annoying like that. There's something about the Dolphins. I have a feeling the Jets are gonna bitch slap them this year.
How do you feel about week 1? San Fran.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if they lost, I wouldn't be surprised, nor would I like panic. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they won. I mean,
I wouldn't panic because the next 4 or 5 games are winnable.
But why and why can't they beat them? I mean, why not?
Listen, Aaron Rodgers was a San Fran fan.
Yeah. Yeah, if they listen,
He
if
might go out there and have a field day.
as long as Aaron Rodgers makes it to the post-game interview, like nothing is gonna happen after that game.
Set the bar low, right?
Like whatever. If they lose, they lose. It's only week 1. It doesn't matter. They'll probably kill Tennessee the next week. Then they're gonna kill New England. Like it doesn't matter. That's how I feel about it. But they could win. I wouldn't be surprised. I think everyone's assuming they're gonna lose, but like I don't know. I'm not sure.
What are you thinking? Are they gonna win? Are they gonna go and take their lunch money in San Francisco?
They could. They could.
So you're non-committal.
Yeah, because I mean, they were in the Super Bowl last year. I mean, they're a really good team. I wouldn't. I could see. I look at that game on. I'm just being really honest. Like I see it as like a toss-up. But the 49ers also do start like historically slow every year. I feel like every year they start slow. It's like 3 weeks into the season. People are like, oh, the 49ers aren't that good. And then they go off. Yeah. I mean, the Jets match up well with them. I mean, they can win.
But I'm going to say the Jets goes into San Francisco and punches them in the mouth. That's what I'm going to say. Brandon Ayuk isn't happy. I think you're going to have Hassan Reddick showing up to play that game. He's going to come off the edge. He's going to crack Mr. Irrelevant. Christian McCaffrey's going to rush. He's going to have 20 touches for 32 yards. Maybe he's going to have a day.
Christian McCaffrey might not play. I mean, he got a calf strain. I mean, who knows if he's even going to play? I mean, the Jets match up well defensively with them. I don't. That's why I'm saying, like, would I be surprised if they won? Absolutely not. Would I care that much if they lost? Not really.
I just tried to get you to commit to something.
They're gonna go into San Francisco and bitch slap the 49ers. And then Sauce Gardner is going to do something like he did with the Packers cheesehead. And then the Jets are going to go 17.
Oh, that was classic. That was classic.
I'll be honest with you. After that game, I literally cried. I was like, we just beat the Packers, and then Breece Hall died the next week,
I know.
Yeah. No, okay. I'll go on record and say, I think the Jets will beat the 49ers week 1.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Zerline walk-off.
Nice. All right, gentlemen.
All right, man.
Wrap it up.
See you guys.
All right. We'll see you next week. Same time, same channel, people. Fuck your teams.